Golden State acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo. This time, it feels realer than ever. Now, there is a bit of competition around the league. Surely other teams are interested in making a Giannis trade.
That was the reality just days back. The gossip, the conjecture, the endless theories that had been percolating for years. But now it's real. Giannis Antetokounmpo is officially a Golden State Warrior, and Draymond Green's contract might be cut this season. What's occurring with the Golden State Warriors? The Greek Freak goes west inside the blockbuster move that changed everything. The instant Golden State Warriors fans have been hoping for across what seems like an eternity of conjecture. Rumor-mongering and endless hypothetical swap scenarios has finally landed with the sort of seismic force that permanently reshapes the NBA landscape. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the two-time MVP, the defensive powerhouse, the physical specimen who has controlled basketball conversations for the better part of a decade, is now officially a member of the Golden State Warriors organization. This is not a drill. This is not another mock trade exercise. And this is most certainly not the work of overzealous fans on social media, platforms building their dream scenarios in the middle of the night. The Milwaukee Bucks, the franchise that Giannis transformed from a perennial lottery club into legitimate championship contenders, have parted ways with their cornerstone superstar in what can only be viewed as one of the most consequential transactions in modern NBA history. We have a lot to chat about in terms of the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade saga. I haven't been on the channel in a couple of days. I was on a little of a weekend trip, so there's a lot to discuss here. The reporting that preceded this monumental transaction painted a picture of urgency, desperation, and calculated risk-taking that ultimately defined how this swap materialized. Multiple insiders described Golden State as the club, making the strongest, most aggressive push for Giannis, with owner Joe Lacob and GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. making it abundantly clear that no player except Stephen Curry would be considered off-limits in their pursuit of the Greek Freak. The Warriors front office operated with singular focus in days leading up to February 5th, 2026. Trade deadline treating every other potential move, every other roster consideration, and every other organizational priority as secondary to the primary objective of landing Giannis before the clock expired. Their offer was explicitly described as pick-heavy by ESPN's Shams Charania, leveraging their available future draft capital in a manner that few other franchises could reasonably match.
As you're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Tyler Smith, Brett Siegel of Clutch Points saying the following. He says that to this point, the Bucks have not declined the Warriors' offer, according to sources.
What made the Warriors package particularly compelling to Milwaukee's decision-makers centered on the sheer volume of draft assets they could offer without running afoul of the Stepien rule. Golden State included unprotected firsts 2026, 2028, 2032, plus 2030. Top 20 protected selections. The additional pick swaps provided Milwaukee with the kind of long-term flexibility that rebuilding franchises desperately require when they find themselves starting over from scratch. The player components of the trade package showed the Warriors knew Giannis's approximately $54 million salary required significant outgoing contracts to make the mathematics work under NBA salary cap regulations. Jonathan Kuminga, the high upside forward who represented Golden State's most promising homegrown talent in years, became the centerpiece of the player portion heading to Milwaukee. Brandin Podziemski and Moses Moody, both representing varying degrees of potential and immediate contribution capability, joined Kuminga in the package heading to Wisconsin. Bucks GM John Horst was reportedly fascinated by Golden State's future assets, recognizing that the combination of draft capital and young players provided exactly the kind of rebuilding foundation that Milwaukee needed after acknowledging their championship window with Giannis had effectively closed. The timing of this transaction proved equally critical to its completion. Giannis had been dealing with calf and ankle issues that sidelined him for 4 to 6 weeks, creating a situation where the Bucks faced the uncomfortable reality of watching their franchise player recover on the bench while their playoff hopes evaporated game by game. The frustration that had been building within the organization, both from Giannis' perspective regarding the team's direction and from the front office's perspective regarding competitive viability, reached a critical mass that made trade discussions not just possible, but inevitable.
Kuminga. He says even though the Bucks could potentially get more by trading Giannis this summer than by 3 p.m. on Thursday, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN says that Giannis doesn't want to sit out the rest of the year, and that could cause some tension up in Milwaukee. Now, the problem is that the Bucks can't risk Giannis tearing his Achilles. He's dealing with the calf stuff. He's on the shelf right now.
The competition for Giannis' services extended well beyond Golden State, with multiple franchises making serious plays for Milwaukee in the tense days preceding the cutoff. The Miami Heat tendered a solid offer that featured Tyler Herro Kellel Ware, Terry Rozier's dying contract in first in 2030 and 32. The USA, Minnesota Timberwolves chased a purely talent-focused route, possibly including Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Rob Dillingham. The New York Knicks, despite their thin draft assets following the McCall, Bridges, and Karl Anthony Towns deal, stayed in the mix too. Still, the Warriors stood out as the sole lead horse during the hunt. Their drive and asset depth created gaps from rivals who either missed the draft picks or battled cap limits that tangled their offers up. The Warriors bundle, ranked as the simplest avenue for a direct two-team exchange, skipping the multi-team chaos that other bidders needed to build solid bids. The choice to move before the cutoff instead of holding for possibly better summer deals showed Milwaukee's belief that the sure value of Golden State's offer beat the vague promise of waiting. The threat of Giannis taking more damage, the internal chaos sure to explode if he returned to play for a franchise he no longer wanted to represent, and the strategic ground other clubs might gain this summer all fed into the thinking that birthed this massive swap. The internal vibes in Milwaukee had rotted to a stage where the hoops brass saw that dragging out the end served no real goal. Giannis reportedly refused to sit out the remainder, sparking bad blood with a front office that needed him parked on the shelf for health and tanking reasons. This deep clash of goals between the superstar and team hastened the fix in ways that favored hunters like Golden State, who came to the talks with offers primed for instant sign-off. The Bucks found themselves battling the grim reality that winning actually hurt their long-term aims, a dynamic that grew impossible with a fiery icon getting antsy on the bench. They take the lesser of their pick in the Pelicans selection, meaning every win crushed their lottery rank and future stash in ways that piled on the heavy hits they would take by dealing their main pillar. The Draymond issue, how Green's exit became the lock to pick. The deal? Sending Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Bay demanded a cost that many Warriors fans never thought would truly happen. Yet here we are watching the end of an age-defining Golden State hoops for over than 10 years. Draymond Green, the soul of 4 title squads, the defensive wall who fueled the Warriors' death lineup, and the vocal leader holding that room together through glory and chaos alike, landed squarely in the middle of the money math that made this monster trade happen.
So who would that leave out? Yep, Draymond Green would be the one that ends up getting traded. It's the only way. Like, the Warriors just don't have the money on their books. They're not trading Steph. If they're not trading Jimmy, then the only other name that could go is Draymond Green.
The cold math of NBA cap rules said Green's inclusion was basically unavoidable once the Warriors vowed to keep Jimmy Butler as part of their new core. Butler's $54 million wage, lined up with what Giannis makes, building a case where the Warriors faced a hard choice between moving Butler or Green in any real deal structure. The front office made the strategic call that building around Curry, Giannis, and Butler was the best road ahead, even if that road meant parting ways with the longest standing piece of their title core. One rival boss who has worked with the Warriors in trade chats raised the wild thought that Green himself might be down with such a play, hinting that Draymond might take a brief split with the plan that he could come back to. Golden State is a free agent next July. Green's $27.6 million option gave room in how both sides might handle the wake of this deal. The choice to waive Draymond after the move, rather than letting him run the season in Milwaukee, points to the odd relationship issues at hand. Milwaukee had zero desire to add a veteran voice whose defensive fire and locker room weight might mess with their clear tanking goals. Green's worth to Milwaukee was viewed as low due, to age cost and vibe issues making a buyout or waiver the smartest fix for all sides involved. The heavy toll of this split can't be ignored when viewing what Draymond meant to the Warriors organization and the fan base. The titles, the insane defensive stops, the fierce trash talk that rivals despised and fans adored, the technical fouls that drove staff to madness. The media takes that, sparked headlines regardless of the truth. It all formed the fabric of an era that game scholars will study and praise for ages to come. Nick Fidel stated that the Dubs were firm on not packaging Butler in any sort of deal a choice that basically sealed Green's fate in the trade structure. The team logic held that Butler's offensive creation skills and proven playoff resume supplied more value than Green's defensive range, especially when pairing those gifts with Giannis's two-way power and Steph's magnetic pull on rival defenses. The deal that surfaced saw Draymond heading to Milwaukee alongside Kuminga, Podziemski, and Moody. With the huge haul of draft picks sweetening the pot, the loss of 7 first-round picks for the Dubs over the next 6 or 7 years was a heavy price, but one the franchise found worthy in hopes of maximizing Stephen Curry's final prime years. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Gary Harris headed to Golden State as part of the salary-matching pieces, adding depth. Guys that might contribute little but kept Giannis's brother close to help the superstar adjust to his new surroundings. Thanasis isn't any Giannis deal. We know this at this point. He's bad, but he keeps Giannis happy, and the Dubs knew that keeping Giannis comfortable translated directly into keeping Giannis deadly. The chance of a third team jumping in to boost the package value surfaced during talks. Brett Siegel noted that clubs out there are going to want to snag Draymond Green for a first-round pick, hinting at scenarios where Green could be flipped to a contender seeking his playoff grit while Milwaukee got extra draft assets. However, the final answer saw Milwaukee handle Green's case straight through the waiver wire. The Dubs' will to sacrifice their entire young core plus their defensive identity piece showed the franchise's full drive to win now. Ball at any cost. They have got to make this work right now and must strike before other teams strike, knowing that their draft capital edge existed only until the summer when more picks would open up to rival teams.
Because the difference between the Warriors and a lot of teams that are making offers for Giannis at this point is that the Warriors do have that treasure trove of first-round draft capital. Other teams don't. And when the summer hits, a new year becomes unlocked in terms of tradable draft picks. So their offers will get better, but the Golden State Warriors offers will not. Like, they're still going to have the same number of picks they can send out. So they got to make this happen right now. And they got to strike before this other team strikes, the team that I think has the next best chance to acquire Giannis, if you consider the Warriors the favorites to make the deal.
The Miami Heat posed the most significant threat to Golden State's acquisition hopes during the negotiation phase, offering a balanced package that mixed ready talent with future freedom in ways that appealed to different camps inside Milwaukee's front office. Active talks have also been held between the Bucks and Heat regarding Giannis. Still, league sources say Milwaukee wants all of Miami's young assets, including Tyler Herro, whose scoring punch and contract value made him the core of any South Beach offer. The Heat weren't offering all their young pieces, like the Dubs were creating a gap in perceived commitment that finally favored Golden State's spot. While Pat Riley's group weighed which pieces they could afford to lose, the Warriors made clear that everything except Steph Curry was on the table for Milwaukee's review. This drive to go all in versus Miami's careful approach created a separation that proved vital when the Bucks finally pulled the trigger. The Wolves and Knicks both offered paper alternatives that never turned into serious threats once the Dubs showed their willingness to exceed what either team could realistically build. The Knicks have like one tradable first-round pick, their past deals having drained the draft capital needed to compete in superstar sweepstakes. Minnesota's player-heavy approach offered solid pros, but lacked the future asset load that Milwaukee prioritized for their rebuilding timeline. The super team scrutiny, what this means for the league and the road ahead. The formation of this Golden State juggernaut instantly invites comparisons to the most controversial roster build in recent NBA history, and the links to Kevin Durant's 2016 choice to join the Dubs cannot be ignored. Regardless of how awkward such comparisons might make the current guys feel, Giannis Antetokounmpo now faces the same doubts, the same hate, and the same legacy concerns that trailed Durant throughout his run in the Bay Area. League sources say that Golden State is aware of recent whispers that Giannis can't be assumed to be as keen as he once seemed to be to relocate to Steph Curry's town and team. The hesitation allegedly rise from worries regarding joining an aging squad and braving the kind of backlash that Kevin Durant continues battling regarding his choice to join Steph right after losing to Golden State back in the 2016 Western Finals.
But according to Jake Fisher late Monday night, while Giannis does respect and has an affinity for Steph Curry, people around the league are wondering if he's actually wanting to team up with him. Here's the full quote from Jake Fisher's piece on Substack. Quote, League sources say that Golden State is aware of recent rumblings that Antetokounmpo can't be assumed to be as eager as he was once perceived to be to relocate to Stephen Curry's town and team. How credible are such rumblings? Presumably, only Giannis knows for sure. Yet I have heard from sources briefed on the situation that some in the know suspect Antetokounmpo could be turned off by the idea of joining an older team and or facing the sort of criticism that Kevin Durant continues to absorb to this day about teaming up with Curry.
Some in the know suspect that Antetokounmpo could be turned off by the very notion of joining an older squad or facing the kind of backlash that Kevin Durant continues to handle to this day about linking up with Curry. These worries apparently did not ultimately stop the deal from happening, but they supply essential context for comprehending the mental framework Giannis brings to his fresh situation. The contrast with Miami's organizational allure proves particularly instructive during the trade process. For Giannis to join that group is trying to fit into what Steph has built there, that culture. However, if you join a squad like Miami, that culture is not based on any one player. The Heat's organizational identity stood independent of any single superstar, while Golden State remained fundamentally Curry's team in a way that would compel Giannis to Piachu Jordanate himself to an existing hierarchy. Sam Amick reported that Giannis views Miami as a squad that potentially makes a lot of sense for him with the Eastern Conference preference and organizational structure, offering theoretical benefits over the Warriors' proposal. Still, practical considerations concerning asset packages and competitive windows ultimately outweighed these preferences when the deal materialized. The competitive implications of this transaction reach far beyond the Warriors' championship hopes, fundamentally shifting the balance of power across the whole NBA landscape. The mix of Curry's shooting gravity, Giannis's physical dominance, and Butler's two-way versatility creates a trio that theoretically possesses no flaws, capable of producing offense through multiple avenues while defending at an elite level across all spots. The depth concerns that immediately arise when checking this roster reflect the standard trade-offs that super team building necessitates. Golden State surrendered their whole young core, their defensive anchor, and their future draft flexibility to land one player, leaving the supporting cast comprised of veteran minimum deals, mid-level exceptions, and whatever reclamation projects the front office can spot in the buyout market. The Knicks hold like one tradable first-round pick. They gave up everything for Michael Bridges, illustrating how aggressive hunting of stars drains organizational depth and future flexibility. The Warriors now find themselves in a similar spot, albeit with three superstars to show for their asset spending rather than a collection of quality starters. The championship expectations now sit squarely on the shoulders of three players who must stay healthy, engaged, and complementary for the Warriors to justify this huge investment. Curry, at 38 years old, no longer has the same durability. Concerns he had in his early 30s, having proven his ability to perform at elite levels deep into his career. Giannis, despite the calf issues that sparked this trade, remains in his physical prime at 31 and should provide the athletic dominance the Warriors lacked in their post-Durant era. Butler's presence creates both the most intriguing possibilities and the most significant concerns. Butler's ACL injury and the Warriors' preference to keep him despite that setback suggest confidence in his recovery timeline. But playoff basketball demands consistent availability that cannot be guaranteed with any player recovering from such significant damage. Pairing Giannis with Curry and potentially keeping Jimmy Butler could create an instant powerhouse, especially for a last run title window before Curry's prime definitively ends. The championship or bust mentality that accompanies such transactions suits an organization that has tasted glory and refuses to accept anything less than another Larry O'Brien trophy. The league-wide reaction to this super team formation will undoubtedly include criticism, envy, and strategic counter-programming as other franchises recognize that the Western Conference hierarchy has been fundamentally reshuffled. The Oklahoma City Thunder, Denver Nuggets, and Dallas Mavericks all now face a Warriors team that possesses the firepower to overwhelm even the most well-constructed rosters. He doesn't want to re-aggravate his injury. The Bucks don't want to re-gate his injury because that takes him off the trade block completely if he tears his Achilles. So it feels like they've kind of conceded and said, enough is enough. We're going to make this deal, and it's going to have to get done by Thursday in the afternoon. Insane. For Milwaukee, the rebuilding process begins with a collection of young talent and draft assets that provides genuine hope for the future, even as the present feels impossibly distant from championship contention. The Kuminga Podziemski Moody trio gives the Bucks a foundation of youth and potential, while the draft capital lets them stack more assets via swaps or straight picks during the next few seasons. The league terrain after this deal feels radically altered from how it appeared mere hours back, with consequences that shall resonate across the association for years to follow. The Freak donning a Dubs jersey, Draymond Green hunting his new destination, and the Milwaukee Club starting a fresh phase of construction and retooling all signify massive changes that completely change how we view and judge elite hoops at this specific juncture. The matter of if this mega squad assembly proves or ruins the fighting soul of organized sports shall be argued constantly in the days and weeks coming. Skeptics might cite the hoarding of skill on one loaned lineup as proof of a fractured sporting landscape where icons use their clout to build invincible juggernauts. Fans might argue that the chase for greatness rightfully guides top talent to find the most optimal environments, and that the Bay claimed the power to make this play via decades of front office savvy and tactical resource handling. There is plenty that specific voices are claiming one side and few folks are shouting the other, showing the divided state of current game talk where each big deal sparks instant and wild responses from all angles of the hoop world. The reality, as it quite often goes, probably sits right in the awkward gray area where logical minds may differ regarding the consequences and weight of such a massive lineup overhaul. For the Greeks specifically, this swap means both freedom and pressure in same amounts. He flees a Bucks context that had become old and aimless, landing himself beside two fellow titans who match his fighting spirit and ring ambitions. Still, he now shoulders the load of demands that track any jump to a proven victor, the unavoidable contrast to prior mega squad versions, and the study that trails any athlete who switches cities to chase for a crown. The chance of Draymond Green heading to San Francisco in the warm season brings an exciting layer to this already intense story. Could Draymond take the basics or the exception to run home to? The Bay and open market stays a live mystery, yet the ties built during 4 title sprints and endless fights alongside hint that this split could act brief rather than forever. The Dubs might invite back their vocal heart at a lower rate, while the vet could go share in possibly the last verse of the Chef saga. The title consequences of this play cannot get ignored when reviewing what the franchise has built. Go hard now or die slow, as one expert put the call for the San Francisco office, and they opted to embrace the bets and prizes that pair with gunning for ultimate gold. The cost was high. The road is foggy, yet the now instantly seems incredibly strong for a team that declined to go softly into sporting obscurity. Thanks for viewing. Click on more vids on the feed.